I think that show business was kind of the only option for me.
Some of the Muppets require 3 hands to operate. This keeps puppeteers falling over each other's feet in the beginning.
The Muppets were roasting everyone, and most people never even noticed. For decades, millions of viewers thought The Muppet Show was just colorful puppets, catchy songs, and harmless family fun. Kids laughed at the chaos, adults enjoyed the jokes, and almost nobody realized the show was quietly dragging celebrities, television, critics, workplace culture, and even human nature itself. So who was really getting roasted all along? And how did one puppet show get away with saying what everyone else couldn't? Join us as we uncover what The Muppet Show was really making fun of. It was really making fun of television variety shows. When The Muppet Show first premiered in 1976, many people saw it as a fun family program filled with singing frogs, dancing pigs, and lovable monsters. Children laughed at the slapstick humor, while parents enjoyed the celebrity guest stars.
Oh, who are you?
James Coburn.
Oh, yeah! Hey, I seen you in all them tough guy movies.
But what many viewers didn't realize was that the entire series was built around a clever joke. Beneath everything, The Muppet Show was quietly parodying one of television's biggest genres at the time, the classic variety show. To understand the joke, you have to remember what television looked like during the 1960s and 1970s. Variety shows dominated primetime entertainment. Programs hosted by stars like Carol Burnett, Sonny and Cher, and Dean Martin mixed comedy sketches, musical performances, celebrity interviews, and elaborate stage productions into one polished broadcast. On television, everything appeared glamorous and effortless. Behind the scenes, however, productions were often anything but calm, and Jim Henson knew that world firsthand. Long before creating The Muppet Show, Henson had spent years working in television, producing puppet segments for national broadcasts, and collaborating with countless performers. He understood that audiences only saw the finished product. They rarely witnessed the confusion unfolding backstage. Rather than hiding that reality, Henson made it the very foundation of his show. Almost every episode followed 2 stories at once. On stage, viewers watched polished musical numbers and comedy acts. Backstage, however, everything seemed to be falling apart as last-minute disasters occurred out of nowhere. Kermit the Frog spent nearly every episode rushing from one crisis to another, desperately trying to keep the production from collapsing before the curtain rose again. Television critics quickly noticed what Henson was doing. Instead of copying traditional variety shows,
Very sensitive frog.
He got his feelings hurt because he wasn't working the show.
Yeah.
Well, frogs, we just sit around.
The Muppet Show affectionately turned the entire format upside down. The polished performances were only half the entertainment. The real comedy often came from watching the production struggle to survive behind the scenes, exposing the frantic reality audiences rarely got to see. Ironically, that honesty became one of the show's greatest strengths. Children enjoyed the colorful characters and physical comedy, while adults recognized familiar workplace chaos hiding beneath the jokes. The series celebrated show business while simultaneously poking fun at how unpredictable it really was, proving that even the most polished productions are usually held together by people improvising under pressure. But if the backstage chaos was exposing how entertainment really worked, what did the show have to say about the celebrities who stepped into that spotlight every single week? Guest stars were secretly laughing at themselves. One of the biggest reasons The Muppet Show became such a cultural phenomenon wasn't just the Muppets themselves. It was an incredible list of celebrities who agreed to appear alongside them. Elton John, Diana Ross, Vincent Price, Alice Cooper, Mark Hamill, and even ballet legend Rudolf Nureyev appeared in different episodes. At first glance, it looked like these stars were simply stopping by to promote themselves. But if you watch those episodes closely, something much more intriguing is happening. The celebrities weren't just appearing on the show, they were willingly becoming part of the joke. In the 1970s, celebrities were often treated with almost untouchable respect whenever they appeared on television. Interviews were carefully managed, performances were polished, and public images were protected. Jim Henson had a completely different idea. Instead of putting famous guests on a pedestal, he invited them to poke fun at themselves alongside a cast of unpredictable puppets. And surprisingly, They loved it. Take Alice Cooper, for example. At the time, he was one of rock music's most controversial figures, famous for dark stage shows involving snakes, guillotines, and horror-inspired performances. Many parents considered him frightening. So what did the Muppet Show do?
Alice Cooper? 15 seconds to curtain, Mr. Cooper.
Ready whenever you say, Scooter.
These monsters aren't ours.
It leaned into that reputation with a wink. Cooper jokingly interacted with devilish-looking Muppets, sang dramatic numbers, and played along with the exaggerated version of his public image. Rather than trying to appear intimidating, he showed viewers he had a great sense of humor. Mark Hamill did something similar after becoming a global superstar through Star Wars. Instead of acting like Hollywood's newest untouchable leading man, he happily joined in the chaos, even performing alongside characters who constantly interrupted, confused, or completely stole the spotlight from him. It was a reminder that even one of the biggest movie stars in the world didn't mind being the punchline. Then there was Vincent Price, whose legendary horror career made him the perfect guest for Halloween-themed comedy.
And tonight our special guest is Mr. Vincent Price.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Kermit.
Rather than frightening audiences, he embraced the show's playful spirit, proving that his famous spooky image could be just as entertaining when mixed with absurd humor. That pattern repeated throughout the series. Whether the guest was a musician, actor, dancer, or comedian, everyone was expected to leave their ego at the studio door. The bigger the celebrity, the funnier it became, watching them embrace complete absurdity. Instead of protecting carefully crafted public personas, the Muppet Show encouraged famous guests to laugh at their own reputations. That willingness to laugh at fame itself became part of the show's charm. Viewers weren't just watching celebrities perform, they were watching them reveal a lighter, more approachable side of themselves. But if the guest stars were in on the joke, why did so many adults seem to laugh at completely different moments than the children sitting beside them? The adults were laughing at completely different jokes. One of the smartest things about the Muppet Show is that it never chose between entertaining children and entertaining adults. It somehow managed to do both at the same time. Kids laughed because Gonzo was getting launched out of a cannon, or because Animal was causing complete chaos behind a drum set. Adults, meanwhile, were laughing for entirely different reasons. That's something many viewers didn't fully appreciate until they watched the series again years later. Jim Henson never wanted people to think of the Muppets as just children's characters. In fact, he often pushed back against that idea in interviews. His goal was to create comedy that families could enjoy together, but not necessarily for the same reasons. Instead of talking down to younger audiences, he layered the writing so different generations would pick up different jokes. Take Kermit the Frog, for example. As a child, you probably saw him as the calm leader trying to stop everyone from causing trouble. Watch those same episodes as an adult, though, and Kermit suddenly looks less like a puppet and more like an exhausted producer trying to manage impossible co-workers. Every episode throws another disaster at him. Someone refuses to rehearse, someone else starts an argument, a guest star has an unexpected demand. Gonzo wants to perform something dangerous. Animal escapes again, and somehow Kermit is expected to solve everything before the curtain goes up. Sounds familiar? For many adults, it feels less like watching a puppet show and more like watching a normal day at work. Miss Piggy offered another layer of humor. While children saw an overconfident pig who loved karate,
A marriage made in heaven, a frog and a pig. We could have bouncing baby figs.
and wanted Kermit to notice her, adults often recognized a playful exaggeration of celebrity vanity, oversized ambition, and the constant desire to remain the center of attention. She wasn't mocking one specific actress. She was rather poking fun at a type of personality that has always existed in show business. Even the backstage arguments carried a deeper joke. Writers, performers, technicians, and producers all wanted different things, creating constant conflict that mirrored the reality of creative workplaces. Anyone who had ever worked with a difficult team could immediately recognize the situation, even if it was being acted out by frogs, pigs, bears, and chickens. That's why The Muppet Show has aged so well. The physical comedy still makes children laugh, but the satire often becomes funnier with experience. The older audiences get, the more they recognize pieces of real life hiding underneath the felt, feathers, and fur. But perhaps the sharpest satire wasn't aimed at celebrities or television at all. It was aimed at the people sitting in the audience, convinced they knew exactly what great entertainment looked like. The show was also taking aim at critics who complained about everything. Every successful television show has one group that's almost impossible to impress: the critics. No matter how brilliant a performance is, someone will always find something to dislike. The Muppet Show understood that long before social media turned everyone into an instant reviewer. In fact, one of its funniest running jokes revolved around two characters whose entire purpose was to sit back, complain, and criticize absolutely everything they saw. If you've ever laughed at Statler and Waldorf without thinking much about them, you may have missed one of the cleverest pieces of satire in the entire series.
I love it! I love it!
Of course he loves it. He's the kind of guy who plants poison ivy.
The pair first appeared in the very first season, occupying their famous balcony seats overlooking the stage. Throughout every performance, they interrupted with sarcastic comments, groans, and brutally funny one-liners. Sometimes they barely waited for an act to begin before deciding it was terrible. Other times, they criticized performances that the audience had clearly enjoyed, almost as though they had made up their minds before the curtain even opened. That wasn't an accident. Television critics and entertainment writers have long described Statler and Waldorf as affectionate parodies of professional critics and relentless hecklers. They represented the kind of people who always seemed ready with another complaint, another sarcastic remark, or another reason why a performance wasn't good enough. Their jokes weren't necessarily attacking critics as a profession. Instead, they exaggerated a familiar personality, someone who seemed to enjoy criticizing entertainment more than actually enjoying it. The funniest part, however, was the contradiction. If Statler and Waldorf hated the show so much, why did they keep coming back? Episode after episode, season after season, they returned to exactly the same seats. They watched every musical number, every comedy sketch, every disaster backstage, and every celebrity guest. Then, almost without fail, they complained all over again. It became one of the show's most brilliant recurring jokes, because it mirrored something audiences recognized in real life. Some people seemed completely devoted to things they constantly claimed they disliked. Today, that joke feels even more relevant than it did in the 1970s. Scroll through the comments section of almost any popular television show, movie trailer, or celebrity interview, and you'll quickly find people who seem determined to dislike everything. That doesn't mean criticism isn't valuable. Thoughtful criticism has always been an important part of entertainment. What the Muppet Show gently laughed at was the habit of criticizing simply for the sake of criticizing. Ironically, Statler and Waldorf became two of the franchise's most beloved characters. Despite spending most of their time complaining, their witty exchanges were so funny that audiences actually looked forward to hearing what they would say next. In the end, the critics became just as entertaining as the performers themselves, proving that even the harshest commentary could become part of the show. But after making fun of television, celebrities, backstage chaos, and even critics, what was the biggest target of all? The answer might explain why the Muppet Show still feels surprisingly relevant nearly 50 years later. It was quietly making fun of the entertainment industry. If there's one thing the Muppet Show understood better than most television programs of its time, it was that the entertainment industry often looks far more glamorous from the audience than it does from backstage. Viewers saw dazzling musical numbers, famous guest stars, and standing ovations. But behind the curtain, everything was usually one small disaster away from falling apart. That wasn't just a running gag. It was one of the show's cleverest observations about how show business really works. Throughout the series, performers constantly battled problems that had nothing to do with talent. It was either costumes disappearing moments before a performance, stage props malfunctioning, technical rehearsals going wrong, or last-minute arguments breaking out backstage. Even celebrity guests occasionally found themselves caught in complete confusion as the Muppets scrambled to keep the production moving. While children laughed at the chaos, adults working in television, theater, or live entertainment often recognized something surprisingly familiar. Jim Henson wasn't inventing those situations out of thin air. By the time The Muppet Show premiered in 1976, Henson had already spent years producing television programs. He understood that audiences usually saw only the polished final product, never the frantic work happening behind the scenes. Instead of pretending entertainment was effortless, he embraced the disorder and turned it into comedy. That honesty made the show feel refreshingly different. Rather than portraying performers as flawless professionals, The Muppet Show celebrated imperfection. Situations like when actors forgot their lines, stagehands made mistakes, or even unexpected accidents interrupted performances. Yet somehow, the show always continued. It reflected a truth that entertainers have long understood. Live productions rarely go exactly as planned, and sometimes the best moments happen because something goes wrong. Many television historians have pointed out that this backstage format became one of the series' defining innovations. Instead of presenting entertainment as carefully manufactured perfection, the show revealed the stress, improvisation, teamwork, and unpredictability required to make people smile for just a few minutes. Ironically, that made the performances feel even more authentic. Looking back today, the series almost feels ahead of its time. Modern audiences love documentaries, behind-the-scenes specials, and interviews revealing what really happens during film and television productions. The Muppet Show was doing exactly that decades earlier, except it disguised those observations beneath jokes, puppets, and musical numbers. It reminded viewers that behind every polished performance are real people dealing with unexpected problems, impossible deadlines, oversized personalities, and plenty of controlled chaos. Perhaps that's why the show still feels so relatable today. But after making fun of television, celebrities, critics, and the entertainment industry itself, there was still one final target left, and it turns out that target wasn't Hollywood at all. It was every single one of us. The biggest joke was that The Muppet Show was really making fun of all of us. By the time the closing theme played at the end of each episode, something interesting had happened. The celebrities had been teased, the critics had been laughed at, or the backstage crew had barely survived another disaster. Even Kermit, the one trying hardest to keep everything together, usually looked completely exhausted. It almost seemed as though no one escaped becoming the punchline, and that's because they didn't. Looking back today, many television historians believe the show's cleverest trick was that it wasn't just poking fun at show business. It was gently holding up a mirror to human nature itself. Think about the personalities that filled the theater.
There was Kermit, forever trying to keep everyone organized while chaos erupted around him. There was Miss Piggy, convinced she deserved every spotlight.
Gonzo constantly chased bigger, stranger ideas, no matter how dangerous they looked. Fozzie Bear desperately wanted people to laugh, even when his jokes fell flat. Animal acted entirely on impulse, while Statler and Waldorf seemed happiest when criticizing everyone else. None of those personalities felt completely unfamiliar. That's because they reflected traits people recognize in everyday life. Every workplace has someone who feels like Kermit, trying to manage impossible situations. Every office probably has someone with Miss Piggy's confidence, or perhaps her dramatic flair. Most families know someone who resembles Fozzie, always hoping their jokes land better than they actually do. And almost everyone has encountered a Statler or Waldorf, ready with an opinion before anything has even finished. That universality wasn't accidental. Jim Henson often spoke about wanting the Muppets to reflect real emotions rather than simply telling children's stories. While the characters were exaggerated for comedy, they were still driven by recognizable feelings: ambition, frustration, jealousy, optimism, fear, pride, friendship, and perseverance. That's one reason audiences of every generation continue connecting with them decades later. Television critics have frequently pointed out that The Muppet Show avoided becoming cynical. Yes, it made fun of people, but it rarely encouraged viewers to laugh at them in a cruel way. Instead, it invited audiences to laugh with them. The characters made mistakes, argued, failed spectacularly, and embarrassed themselves. Yet they always returned the following week, ready to put on another show. Beneath every joke was an underlying sense of optimism that things would somehow work out in the end. Perhaps that's why the series has never really gone out of style. Children still enjoy the colorful puppets and physical comedy. Adults notice the backstage satire, the entertainment jokes, and the surprisingly relatable personalities. And both generations leave smiling for different reasons. So, was the Muppet Show secretly exposing some hidden conspiracy? Not at all. Its real target was something much more universal. It was laughing at our egos, our ambitions, our bad habits, our endless optimism, and the beautiful chaos that comes with being human. Somehow, by making fun of everyone a little, the Muppet Show made everyone feel welcome. And that's a joke that still lands nearly 50 years later. So, which hidden joke surprised you the most? And looking back now, do you think the Muppet Show was actually made just as much for adults as it was for children? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.